You've seen them in stores everywhere. They're on the internet all the time. You've seen your sister, your mother, your girlfriend, your spouse. Someone has one of these. So today we're going to talk about it and ask, why Stanley? Hey everyone, I'm Dave with Beast Made Reviews, of course a channel dedicated to reviewing quality at different price points. Of course, we have seen Stanley cups everywhere, and there is a really cool backstory behind these cups and why they got so popular. So today I want to talk about it real quick and just see, are these any good? But before we do that, why don't you consider subscribing down below? I think you'll really like it here. If you like everything EDC, fashion, anything cool, I think you really like it here. Do it for Stanley. And if you're interested in any of these cups that I'm showing you here, I'll have links down below to these, and they are affiliate links. Anytime you buy through that, it does help out the channel, and I always appreciate it when you do that, so thank you so much. All right, now let's get to Stanley cups. Now I have a few that I want to show here, but there are several. There's a lot of stuff in the Stanley range of products, and I don't have time to review every single thing here. I wish I did, because they have a lot of cool stuff. But today I'll be talking about kind of their greatest hits, their MVPs of the line. Now, if you've gone online to look at Stanley cups at all, you probably already know that Stanley, the company, was started in 1913. The website is stanley1913.com if you didn't know. It was started by William Stanley Jr., who created a vacuum-sealed steel flask. They dubbed it the Stanley bottle, and Stanley still sells bottles that are similar to that original design, though it's in several different forms now. It was a really iconic design for the time, and it's become just a really kind of hallmark of the brand for kind of all-American, well-made products. And when I think of Stanley, this is the design that I think of. I think of a Stanley bottle like this in the hands of a construction worker or someone just doing hard work with their hands, taking a coffee break or a lunch break with a Stanley bottle. Fast forward several years later to 2016, and Stanley is a big company with lots of different products in their line. And in 2016, they release the Quencher, this model right here. You may have seen it, and it flops. But someone at Stanley approached the Buy Guide, a blog of women, in 2019 and decided to work with them, and they sold thousands of these Quencher bottles. And Stanley selling the Quencher Stanley Cup went from $70 million of annual revenue every year to $750 million in annual revenue every year. The Quencher and Stanley, or really just what's called now the Stanley Cup, is a household name everywhere. Everyone has one of these somewhere or knows someone that has one or wants one. So the question that I have now is, why didn't I invest in Stanley in 2019? God, I could have been a millionaire. So that was the backdrop of how the Stanley Cup in particular got really popular and how Stanley themselves became a household name. So today I want to talk about 5 of them in the line. Now first we have to start with the OG. This one is what they call the classic legendary bottle now, and this is 1.5 quarts, though they have a few different sizes in this style bottle. This is the classic bottle that set the standard for thermoses for over 100 years. And even though Stanley recently has pivoted more to a wider audience, embracing more of a female crowd and marketing towards a female audience, they still sell their iconic bottles in what's called the Originals collection. Now, across all the bottles that I'm showing here, a lot of the construction is very similar, so I'm going to mention some of the more common aspects of the construction here so I don't have to repeat myself for every single cup. And I deliberately chose a few colors that kind of show more of the kind of female marketing, as well as some colors that I think my guy audience will like as well. One of the most innovative parts of the Stanley design was the double-walled steel vacuum insulation. These cups are made with stainless steel that is recycled stainless steel. They're leak-proof, dishwasher safe, packable, they're built like tanks, and they also have a lifetime warranty as well. Now this particular model here, the Legendary, also has a collapsible handle on the side. It has an insulated lid that turns into a cup, and it also has an interior lid as well to seal in the heat and the cold. And this is built like a tank. This particular model weighs 2 pounds and is just over 14 inches tall and 4.7 inches wide at its widest diameter. And unlike some of the other models here, this will not fit in a cup holder, but I think you might be able to use this as a tank artillery round. This is in the classic hammer-tone green, but Stanley offers it in several colors. That's pretty common with a lot of the Stanley cups here. They have several different colors across the range, sometimes dozens of them. Now this bottle will keep something hot for 38 hours, cold for 35 hours, and keep ice frozen for 6 days. Of course, they won't fit in your car really, but It has its own handle. You can use it as a briefcase, I guess, if you wanted to. It's big, but they have this in a few other sizes as well if you wanted something maybe a little bit more portable. But if you want the best and you want the classic bottle design, this is it. It is absolutely incredible. I love this. Definitely check out the legendary bottle by Stanley. All right, now before we move on to the next bottle here, I want to talk about a quick criticism that I hear sometimes online. And the question arises, does Stanley use lead in the Stanley cups? And it's kind of a complicated question to answer, and this is what I have found. First of all, there is no lead on the inside at all touching anything that your mouth is on. You can't touch lead on the outside. You can't touch lead with your hands. You can't touch lead when you're drinking anything. No lead gets to you at all. But there is a slight caveat here. Because Stanley uses a double wall steel to form the vacuum of the insulation here, whenever they're forming the vacuum, they have to seal it on the end. So they solder the end to seal up the vacuum. That solder apparently has some lead in it. But then they cover it with either a foot, like this one, which you can't even see it, or they paint over it with a powder coat. Either way, your hands can't get to it. So unless you're really trying to tear up the bottle and really trying to get to that vacuum seal, you're not going to be able to touch the solder joint. You'll never get any lead poisoning because you'll never touch any lead with the Stanley bottles. Ultimately, it's just scaremongering. All right, now let's get to the MVP here. This right here, the Quencher cup. Now already this has become a new classic with Stanley, and for good reason. I think this is a great cup. This is made with hydration in mind, and it's built with a similar spec to the original Stanley bottles. It has a double-walled steel with a vacuum insulation, and then it has a powder coat on the outside. They have what's called a flow state screw-on lid that lets you use the straw or slide open the top to sip. There's a big comfort grip handle, and because the bottom is tapered, this will fit in a car cup holder. Now I have two models of this. I have the 40-ounce bottle right here, and then I also have a smaller version, the 30-ounce bottle right here. Now this Stanley bottle in particular is from Mrs. BMR. She got this one, and this one is in the color fuchsia. And I think this one is a slightly older model, though we got this pretty recently. The lid is slightly different and doesn't have the newer lid that the 30-ounce bottle that I just got has, which I'll show you in a minute. And this one also has a rubber foot on the end here as well. It's really grippy, and when you put the cup down, it's not going to move anywhere or slide. Now this 40-ounce Quencher will keep liquids cold for 11 hours. It will keep ice frozen for 48 hours and keep liquids hot for 7 hours. The size on this is 12 inches high by 5.28 inches at the widest diameter, and this weighs about 1.4 pounds. And as I said, the Quencher, wildly popular, so they have this in several different sizes. This is probably the standard of the size. Everyone wants the 40-ounce bottle, so this is probably the most popular one. And of course, this is in fuchsia, which I think most of my subscribers will probably not want. But they have dozens of colors of this. So here's a size down right here, and this one is the 30-ounce bottle right here, and this one is in the color mist. Now this 30-ounce is pretty much identical except in size to the original Quencher. The size on this is 11 inches high by 5.4 inches at its widest, and the weight on this is 1.1 pounds. And when you pick this up, it's noticeably lighter. Even though on paper it's only a few ounces lighter, it feels noticeably lighter in hand. Now the 30-ounce has a little less insulative properties, and so it keeps liquids cold for 9 hours, 40 hours iced, and 5 hours hot. But even so, that's still really great, so the performance really isn't that much of a downgrade here. Now, as I mentioned, this 30-ounce is newer, and so it has a little bit different lid on the top here, different flow state lid. Functionally, it's identical, except for one feature, which is like a little gusset which holds the straw in place. So whenever you pull it out, it doesn't shake. And that right there is a great improvement. Now, as of today, the Quencher obviously is Stanley's MVP of the line. There are dozens of colors, and there's about 5 different sizes of this available. The 40-ounce is really what everyone is wanting right now, and this one is very big. I think this is a good size, but for me, I think this is personally just a little bit large. The 30-ounce, though, I think is a great size. Even though you lose a little bit of the insulative properties, you don't lose that much. It's still going to keep something hot or cold all day long. It's also a lot slimmer, and it's noticeably lighter as well, so I really like this a lot. This has 30 ounces of liquids in there. I can always replace that if I need to. That's more than enough for me. It keeps something hot and cold all day long. So for me, the 30-ounce really is a sweet spot for the Quencher. But the 40-ounce, still classic, and it is fantastic. Everything about the Quencher is just great. The craft craftsmanship is absolutely spectacular. When you look at this, it looks phenomenal. Everything is perfect on here. The lid is great. It keeps things hot and cold for far longer than you actually need. It's built like a tank. Even the powder coat on the outside is very durable. I have yet to see a scratch or a mark on this at all. Now this one was personalized, and the only thing that has really changed about this one is the sticker is starting to pull up. I've seen knockoffs of the Stanley Quencher, and I think they mostly get in the ballpark, except they're just not as good. When you hold the Stanley and then you hold a knockoff in place, you can see that the lid is not as good. The handle is not as good. The craftsmanship is not as good. Maybe it's a cup that holds liquids, but it's still not as good as the Stanley. Stanley has really perfected just how perfect these cups are. They're popular for a reason, and they are definitely worth the price. These cups will last a lifetime, and these are a great buy it for life option out there. Absolutely phenomenal. Definitely get one of these Stanley Quenchers. They're great. Now on the other end of the spectrum, this right here is the Aerolight Transit bottle, and this one obviously is very small. Now this is made from what they call an Aerolight spun steel. Of course it has the double wall vacuum steel insulation that Stanley is known for. Now this keeps liquids hot for 8 hours, it keeps them cold for 12 hours, and keeps ice frozen for 40 hours. This has a locking drink-through lid on the top, and this easily fits within a cup holder. It's easily packable. You can just hold it right in your hand. And the size on this is 9.5 inches high by 2.8 inches wide. And this is 0.6 pounds. And the color on this is rose quartz. Now this is an incredible bottle. I love this. This is so perfect, especially for me. This is exactly what I look for in a morning commute. I want something that just holds my morning coffee or something to drink, maybe something hot for a little while. I want something small enough to hold, but still keeps my coffee hot, and this is perfect. I love the easy, no-nonsense latch at the top here. You can just open it up, take a sip, and then close it, and then nothing comes out. It'll be totally, completely leak-proof. Now, personally, this may be one of my favorite offerings from Stanley, just in the few bottles that I'm showing here, because this is one that I would use almost every day. This is just a perfect bottle right here. It holds just enough. It's a small size and package. It's easy to use. It doesn't spill. It doesn't leak. And I think this is truly a great cup. Now again, this one is the largest one that they offer. They have 2 smaller sizes as well, but I think that the larger option is still pretty small, and I wouldn't want a smaller option than this. I think this is as small as I would be comfortable having. There's something about this that is just functionally great. Everything about it has just a purpose, and there's no frills about it really. It looks very simple and it works, and that's what I love about it. That's why I would reach for this every single day. Truly great. So definitely check out the Aerolight Transit bottle. All right, next is the Iceflow Flip Straw Tumbler. Now this bottle was specifically designed to keep drinks cold, and in fact, they actually advise to not put hot liquids in this. Now this has what's called an Iceflow series insulation, and it has all the usual Stanley construction and materials like the double wall steel. It has a handle on top, and just look at the pivot joints on this. I mean, this is just solid construction here. It has a built-in flip straw in the lid. This one also uses recycled plastics for the lid, and this one is the 30-ounce model in the color lapis. Now this one is 8.6 inches high by 5.4 inches wide, and this weighs 1 pound. And this keeps drinks really cold as well. This will keep liquids cold for 12 hours and keep ice frozen for 48 hours. Now this is essentially a very similar bottle to the 30-ounce Quencher. They both hold the same amount. You can definitely see some similarities in the design here. And I think really this is for people who want to carry around just water or something really cold and who don't want a straw sticking up or a handle sticking out. I guess really if you wanted to, you could even take the handle off because it has little pivot joints here, but I actually do like the handle on top too. That's pretty convenient. Of course, this has a flip straw on the outside so you can get to your drink, and then you can put the flip straw down and it completely seals up the cup so nothing leaks. And I think this model in particular is great for kids. I'm gonna give this to my son. He's gonna take this to school. He can put this in his backpack. He can grab it out of his backpack really easily because of the top handle. Nothing sticks out. He doesn't need to hold anything hot because it's just gonna hold water. Again, this is just a really solid workhorse cup, especially if you're just gonna use something for cold drinks. Of course, it has a kind of slimmer profile because it doesn't have a handle handle on the sides. So if you like that idea of having a Stanley cup without the handle sticking out, without the straw sticking up, this is a great alternative. Overall, Stanley is just killing it. All these products here really surprised me and wowed me at how great they're made. Sometimes whenever I see a trend like this where everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon and buy something, I'm immediately a little bit skeptical of how good it actually is. But Stanley is different. Stanley offers really great quality on their cups, backed by a lifetime warranty with a cup that will last you the rest of your life. They're worth the hype. I didn't even get to a lot of the other cups in their range, or maybe even the lunch boxes or canteen or French press. And again, these are only a small portion of the colors that I chose from here. I think the Stanley story has really been a really wonderful story that will go down as one of the greatest marketing strategies of all time. I really do believe that. And it's been a story that has shown that a company can pivot and change its audience to a newer audience and really make a difference. But to be fair, Stanley has still made the same cup for over 100 years. They have the same high quality standards that they've always had. They've always been great. And it's great to see that a company is still making the same quality, but it's made an even greater audience that maybe they don't recognize the quality necessarily, but they got the great quality just because they bought Stanley. So why Stanley? Well, because they're the best. They've always been the best since 1913. Nothing has changed. They are great. Definitely check out Stanley in the links below. So that is all I have. If you don't have a Stanley cup, definitely go out and get one. They are absolutely phenomenal cups. You will definitely not regret buying something that lasts the rest of your life. They're awesome. Definitely check them out. Again, big thanks to my Patreon members who proudly made this happen. Thank you so much. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm Dave with Beast Made Reviews. Bye.